What up, Pittsburgh Steelers fans? Today we're talking about outside linebackers and edge rushers that the Steelers should consider drafting in the 2024 NFL Draft. All right, so here are some of the top prospects for me across days 2, 3, and UDFA that I think the Steelers could consider drafting if these guys fall down the boards, if they're late, if the Steelers manage to trade back and acquire more picks, if these prospects are players that they've got a high grade on, they could consider. You can never have enough edge rushers, just like you can never have enough offensive linemen. All right, but I will say, before we get into the 6 prospects I've got, it was slim pickings for edge rushers in this year's draft outside of guys that can play in a 4-3. I'm talking traditional 3-4 edge rushers, guys that kind of top out at like 245 to 250 pounds. Was very slim pickings. This is not a strong position in this year's NFL draft. Same kind of thing with off-the-ball linebackers, but there's some higher quality guys. All right, so let's get straight into it. We're going to look at these guys. We're going to see how Pro Football Network have rated them, and then I'm going to give you a quick overview of their stats. We'll keep it pretty watertight. There's not too many prospects. So number 1 on my list is Chris Bracewell. There are other guys in this draft like Jared Verse and Latu Latu. Those guys are getting drafted way before the Steelers would consider picking an outside linebacker or edge rusher. So we're going to go with this guy, Chris Bracewell, out of Alabama. If the Steelers didn't have Highsmith on their roster, I'd be really keen on the Steelers getting this guy. Chris Bracewell as well, if you brought him in a couple of years, then you've got options with TJ and Highsmith. I don't think the Steelers will ever move on TJ. But, you know, Highsmith, I love Highsmith. I think he's a great guy. But toward the end of his deal, you want to get out midway through. If the Steelers want to get younger, as I said, you can never have enough edge rushers. If they want to move Herbig into the middle, all those different ideas, Bracewell would be an awesome guy to have in here. Not when we look at his production, he's not years and years of production out of Alabama. He had to bide his time there, but a really good prospect going into the NFL. Whichever team selects him, he's going to be a really good player. Then you got Braylon Trice out of Washington. He's kind of quite heralded out there. I don't really need to go too deep into him. Will be familiar for a lot of fans out there if you watch the college football playoffs. Then you got Austin Booker out of Kansas State, who is a bit of an enigma in that he was a bit of a one-year wonder because of injury history and playtime. Good athleticism, good body, came on really late through this draft process, has rocketed up boards from being a day 3 guy into a day 2 guy. Really interesting prospect out of Kansas State. Gabriel Murphy out of UCLA. I really quite like Gabriel Murphy. I must admit that, or Grayson Murphy, I've seen different things. Some people have him listed as Grayson, other people have listed him as Gabriel Murphy. But I like Murphy out of UCLA. I do think that this guy can play. He's got some good production, so we'll talk about him. And then we've got Javon Solomon out of Troy, followed by Zion Tepawala Fetuai. I hope I got the Tepawala right, but I know Fetuai because I played rugby with a Fetuai. But this guy's more of I think I've got kind of a UDFA at around 3 grade, day 3 grade, on this bloke. If you look at the draft board, draft prospect board for Pro Football Network, they have Chris Bracewell at 58 is the first player on the list. Braylon Trice in there at 80. Austin Booker at 96. Javon Sullivan at 169. Gabriel Murphy out of UCLA, or Grayson Murphy, depending on which site is different. They have him in there but we're going to go with Grayson Murphy because I trust Sports Reference and PFF. But we're going to look at Gabriel Murphy there, Grayson Murphy 189. And Zion Tepawala Fetuai at 251. So he is starting to get to the edge of the NFL draft prospects outside of the first round. But it's kind of interesting. So if you look at Chris Bracewell at a high level, Bracewell had 15.5 tackles for loss playing Bama, really playing 3 years. He's played 41 games overall for them for Alabama Crimson Tide. Has 10.5 sacks, 1 interception. Forced fumbles, he had 4, so not too bad there. His guy gets the control because he's the best prospect of the other 3 blokes we'll look at. I'm not going to cover everyone for you. I want to keep this pretty watertight. Austin Booker had 13 tackles for a loss, 8 sacks throughout his college career. 12 tackles for a loss in this past year, then 1 when he played at Minnesota in 2022. He only played 18 games, though, so he's played 8 sacks in 18 games, which is a great stat, but it's not a deeply proven performer. But he does have 2 forced fumbles, and this is why you sort of have him getting closer to a Chris Bracewell and Braylon Trice and rocketing up the board because his production is kind of there. So, yeah, that's pretty good for him out of Kansas. I had him wrong on my list. I had Kansas State. He's out of Kansas. Then you got Grayson Murphy. We're going to go Grayson Murphy out of North Texas and UCLA. But Grayson Murphy there, he had 9 tackles for a loss in this previous year in 2023, 9 the year before, 14 and a half the year before that, and 4 before that. 36 and a half tackles for a loss from Grayson Murphy, or let's just call him Murphy, out of UCLA, the outside linebacker prospect. 21 and a half sacks. And 4 forced fumbles like Bracewell as well. So pretty good production there from him. I guess, in many ways, he's played 45 games, played across D-line, defensive end, linebacker, depending on the designation, across North Texas and UCLA. But he stepped up to play better competition. And obviously he's played D-line, so he's played different stances as well, in different, hands in the dirt. So it's kind of interesting from him. I do really like him late. I do think he's value in the 6th round if he's sitting there. But we'll see. He's kind of got a late 5th round grade on him at the moment when you look at different sites. And you look at the tape as well. I think that's kind of where it is. I watched some highlights of him. It's kind of an interesting prospect. And then you got Javon Solomon, who strikes me as like a Quincy Roche type. I think the Steelers did dirty with Quincy Roche. I did think they genuinely thought he'd make the practice squad. This guy's got some similarly good numbers. He has played a varying amount of games, 24. So he's played 52 games in college, so an experienced guy over 5 years, obviously used the COVID year to his advantage. 49 and a half tackles for a loss, 4 forced fumbles, like a lot of the other prospects we've talked about, 2 pass defenses, 33 sacks, I should say, sorry. Now, usually there's a lot here. Troy, not necessarily the best conference in college football, but the last year of production is really important in college for edge players, for defensive linemen. We know that and how that translates to the NFL. And that's why guys like Bracewell and Austin Booker have high grades. This bloke had 18 tackles for a loss and 16 sacks. That is absolutely huge. But hey, out of all these draft picks and prospects at outside linebacker and edge rusher, you let me know in the comments, who do you like? Who sounds good to you late? None of these guys are guys that the Steelers should really be focusing on day 1 or day 2, but there could be value in day 3 and into UDFAs. I'm Matty P. As always, go Steelers.